Good morning. I am Ruth Valle, and I'm coming to you from Monroe County Schools in Tennessee. I will present to you the Games We Play, 21 in-person and online games that we play in my foreign language classroom. So first off, a little bit of my background. I did grow up in Germany, and my second language was English, and my third language was Latin. I studied at the University of Tennessee, where I also learned French. So I eventually became certified to teach in the public schools of Tennessee, grades 7 to 12, in French, Spanish, and German. So I've presented various times at the AATSP, also in Hong Kong. So this is not my first presentation. I have taught for 31 years total, 31 in Spanish and 3 in French and German. Next year, I'm supposed to teach French and German again, hopefully. Our Spanish teacher quit, so I may be back in Spanish. So that's okay. All right, so let's begin. So my presenter contact information is SpanishTeacherValle@gmail.com. If you have questions about any of the games in particular or any questions in general. Also, I have a little YouTube channel, Learn Tech with Ruth, if you'd like to subscribe. So the language levels that I have taught are basically first and second year foreign language class, world language class, and an occasional third year and dual enrollment. Also beginning college classes, adjunct classes. So you may get the question from the administrator or from anybody, such as parents, why do you play games in the classroom? So first of all, students are by nature competitive, and they play games in their free time. So why not utilize their idea of fun by bringing some games into your classroom? Also, students need time to process the new concepts and vocabulary. So playing an occasional game works well for that. And it's also a wonderful motivator to learn and retain the material. Most importantly, games help build a positive and fun classroom culture. And playing games alleviates language learning anxiety and reduces stress. This is proven by research. Krashen talked about it in 1982. The affective filter can hinder language learning. So language is seen to be heavily dependent on the mood of the learner, with learning being impaired if the learner is under stress or does not want to learn the language. So I will tell you from personal experience that it is entirely possible to learn foreign languages without having fun in the class and being under a lot of stress, because that is how I learned a language. That's how I learned all my languages. I was very stressed in my foreign language classrooms. But if you'd like to have a good classroom culture, you may utilize games just to build a better relationship with the students. So I will introduce you to 21 total games. Some of these you probably already know, but maybe hopefully you will learn some new ones from this presentation. So these are all the in-person games that we play in my classroom. Now, I usually play at least one game every single class period. We are on block schedule, so this works out well for us. So the first one is circle activities. Then we have target language question Jenga. I learned this at a workshop with Matthew and Rachel Ogles. We play a lot of bingo. You can play clapping and rhythm games. I learned about that at the AATSP 21. I've not tried this one, so I'm excited to try it this coming school year. Pictionary, Family I learned from one of my students. Wheel of Names, Hangman, Cabbage, Les Poissons, student-created board games, and musical chairs. So I'm going to go over each one of these in a little bit of detail. So I believe my most successful activity that I do in my foreign language classrooms is our circle activity. So every day when my students come in, I have them stand up and we all get in a big circle and we go around the circle with the topic that we learned the day before. So the very first time that I did this, it was numbers, because it's one of the first things that you would do in a language classroom, I guess. So we went around and around and around until we all knew our numbers to 20. So then, of course, we built up. Now, in my circle activities, I do not have my students sit down or just, get kicked out if they don't know the correct answer. So we always help each other. So another good one would be to review vocabulary this way. So everybody has the vocabulary sheet that we're on, and so every student says a word from the list, out of order, of course, and then the group has to say what the word means in English. And then once we're all around the group, then everybody has to remember what everybody's word was. So it's a good memory game as well, and it fosters active listening, because if they start talking to each other, they wouldn't know what everybody had said. So circle activities, I highly encourage you to try them. So Jenga, question Jenga. So I did learn this at the Unconventional Classroom webinar from Matthew and Rachel Ogles, and I've been doing this one for the last 2 years. So basically, you set up the tower, and as you can see, there's the girl standing in front of my bookshelf. She's the monitor, and the other students are lined up to the left and the right of the Jenga game. And so the first two in the row face each other, and they get a question from me. And then whoever answers the question first and correctly gets to go back to the back of the line, and the person who loses has to draw a piece. Now, there will come a time when all of them want to draw a piece, so you can change the rules, of course. But it's a good review game, and whoever tumbles the tower, they have to set it back up. So that stops people from knocking the tower down on purpose. And the monitor makes sure that they play it correctly. So it's very important to have a monitor. So bingo, we do play bingo in my classes, not just with numbers, but with anything. You can just put vocabulary words on your bingo cards, of course. And so we actually got a real bingo machine at one point. So it's kind of fun. So yes, I encourage you to play this quite often, because it's a nice review. So the clapping game that I learned from Adrian Farmer at the AATSP 21 in Atlanta it goes like this. So you will clap, everybody claps their lap first and then their hands. So you go like slap, 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 slap. So you get a good rhythm going, and then you will have each student say a vocabulary word that goes by a category. For example, if you do fruits, like one person can say banana, apple, orange, and so forth, and everybody has to say say a different word. If you duplicate a word or you can't think of one, then you're out. So whoever is last, still clapping, they will win. So I thought that would be a cute thing to try. Pictionary. Okay, so you just have your students take turns, and they will draw a word, and the students have to guess what it is. So you can do this in teams, or you can do it one-on-one or in small groups. And so that always works well. So this is a game that I learned from one of my students. It's a game that they would play with their family when they have large family gatherings, I guess. So I have the rules written out because it sounds kind of complicated, but it works. So the students each select a name or a target language word. So it can be anything random, or it could be from a vocabulary list, or it can be actual names. So all of these words or names go in a hat, and the teacher has to read the words, the names, and you do this very slowly and do it twice. So the goal of this game is to figure out which student chose which name. So somebody will begin guessing a name. So if it's correct, that student then moves over to the person who guessed it, and that is their new family. So they move together. So then you keep guessing till everybody's name is figured out. So it's a little bit difficult, but if you don't play it with the whole class at first, maybe it would be better to do this in small groups first and then try the whole class. So of course, in my class, we were in person, and we also had virtual students. So my classes were very small. So therefore, I can just use my whole class. This coming up school year, we're back in person. So I will probably have to split the class into 3 groups. But it's certainly something you can try. Okay, so I love the Wheel of Names. So this is literally called wheelofnames.com. So at the beginning of class, if I don't do the circle activity, I sometimes do this one. So we just spin the wheel, and whoever's name appears, they have to answer a question from me. So I can have my students also go up to the board, and they can spin the wheel to involve them. So this wheel is very cool because you can add music, you can save your class if somebody's absent. So let's say Caitlin didn't come today, we can just take her out. And I'm so sorry, the bells are on. So we are the Sequoia Chiefs, and this is our bell. So the Wheel of Names, okay, it's very customizable. You can put it on dark mode, like mine, and then you can certainly save it. And next time you use it, all you have to do is open it up, and there you can play it. So this is called wheelofnames.com. Okay, Hangman. When I was a student in Germany, that's about the only game we ever played, and that was Hangman. So we got a brand new box slide Mimeo panel toward the end of school, I think maybe 2 or 3 weeks before the end of school. And so that was one way that I was able to get all my students up to the board to learn how to write on it. So Hangman was great for that. All right, so the next game is RepoYo. So this is a Nicaraguan game. You wonder what you do with the paper wad. Okay, so the teacher gets strips of paper, and you write a question on it or vocabulary word, and then you ball it up, and you keep making the ball bigger and bigger. You can probably fit about 10 or so questions into one paper wad. It just depends on the thickness of your paper too. So you have to experiment a little bit with it. So then what you do is you have the students in the group in a circle, and then you pass the paper wad around. So then the students will unfold it, and they will answer the question that is posed on the slip of paper. You can also have your students make their own and trade them to the next group. So this is RepoYo, which means cabbage. So this is Les Poissons. So this is a cultural game. Of course, whatever language that you teach. You want to teach the culture. So there are many different cultural games you can find if you don't already know them. So this one here is what the students in France do on July 1st, on April Fool's Day. So they each make a fish and then they stick their fish on an unsuspecting person, such as Mr. Stevenson, the chemistry teacher. So that is a fun activity. Okay, one of our projects last year was to create an actual board game. So first semester we had done a tech project, and second semester I thought we'll go no tech, and for our project that is. And so everybody made a little game in their groups, and the questions that were asked on these board games were all cultural questions. Okay, the last one of the in-person games would be musical chairs. So, of course, you probably use music in your class. You play a song, and then the students have to sit down when the music stops. So, musical chairs. Okay, so our favorite online games. You're probably familiar with some of these, but some are kind of surprising. So I'm sure everybody uses Quizlet. So they have Quizlet Live and Quizlet Match, and we play that frequently. The Study Stack, I don't know if you remember it. It's been around for a very long time, but it's still there. Gimkit, Blockhead, Duolingo Schools, Bingo Baker, Kahoot, and Quick Draw. So let's talk about these. Okay, so Quizlet. Okay, when you open your Quizlet set, you will see on the left side that they have Match and Live. So they recently changed, well, due to the pandemic, they changed their Quizlet Live to allow for individuals or teams. So last year, most of the time, I did not have them in teams. I actually played it with individuals. This is a pre-pandemic picture where they were playing in teams. So I had quite crowded classes. In Quizlet Match, okay, you simply drag the word onto the picture or the picture on the word to make them all disappear. So Study Stack, I highly encourage you to check out Study Stack. You can type in your vocabulary list, and then you can play all kinds of games from the same word list that you typed in, and you don't have to retype them. It just works for, I think, 8 different games. So here's a match game that they're playing. Okay, here are all the different options. So first of all, you can go through the flashcards, and then you can play matching. Matching is kind of cool because as soon as all the words are matched, a beautiful picture appears. And one of the pictures is actually Klingman's Dome, which is in our neck of the woods. They have Snowman, which used to be Hangman. So now the snowman melts. You can play a crossword. You can type in the words. You can also create a quiz and a test. So that's very nice. You can do a study stack list. You can have a table. You can play the bug match game, Hungry Bug, Unscramble Words, Chopped, and Targets. So Targets has to do with states and capitals, but all the other games you can play from one set of words that you type in there. So they do have a premium account, which is $10 per year. So it's definitely worth it. So Gimkit has become increasingly more popular over the last few years. So they have 2 options. They have Gimkit Live and they have Gimkit Inc. So Gimkit Live is where the students will work in teams or against the whole class, and it's multiple choice. Gimkit Inc., however, is where students will write articles. So it's very cool. It's very relaxed writing. It's not a formal situation. So this is a good way to get your students writing short articles and publishing them. So Gimkit has all kinds of options. They have the draw that option now, where a student is chosen from the group and that person has to draw a certain word. So they get a list of words they can choose from to draw. So they have classic mode, team mode, trust no one. They love that. The floor is lava, humans versus zombies, infinity, boss battle, super rich, hidden mode, and drain mode. So there are all kinds of modes available. Most of the time, we just play classic. So you can set how many minutes you want your game to last. So I usually pick 10 minutes. If we have a slow day, I might go up 15 minutes, but most of the time 10 minutes is enough. So there's another game called Blockhead. So Blockhead is very similar to Gimkit, but I will tell you that my students would prefer Gimkit at any time because Gimkit relies less on chance, whereas the Blockhead games have to do a lot with chance. So it's not, a lot of times it's not how well the students know the words, but it's just sheer luck by how they win. So they don't like that. But it's free. So Gimkit does charge a little money, whereas Blockhead is completely free. So they have all kinds of different modes too. Some of these you can play live and some are for homework only. So Duolingo schools. I have all my students on Duolingo for schools. You go on schools.duolingo.com and you can set up free accounts for your students. So there won't be any ads on there, and they have an actual curriculum that you can follow that goes along more or less with what you're teaching anyway. So it's good for reinforcement. So I use the Duolingo words actually as passwords to come through my door a lot of times, not all the time, but sometimes. So they have to, like if I have a Duolingo due on, let's say on Monday, so the students come to my class, they have to tell me one word from the Duolingo list. So speaking of passwords, I also ask them questions. Like every time somebody comes to my door, they have to answer the password question. And so I don't have a different password every day. I have one once per week. So they have to come to my door and know the password, or they just move over and wait to figure out what it is. So it's kind of fun to do passwords. So here's your French for English speakers. So most of the time by the end of the year, we're still on the beginner skills because I don't assign a lot of these. I just go very slow on the Duolingo curriculum because I want to make sure that they actually do it. So as you can see, they have a curriculum. You can check it out and you can just assign the ones that you want to assign. So speaking of bingo, you can actually play bingo with the bingo machine, or you can do the tech version. So this is called bingobaker.com. It is free. You can get a paid version if you want to save your bingo games, but it doesn't cost much. It's like $12, I think, and it's a lifetime thing. It's not per year. So you simply type in the words, and then you get a link, and you post the link on your Google Classroom or just write it on the board. And then everybody gets a different bingo card on their phone or on their Chromebook. We're on Chromebooks. So then you can play it online. So they just simply click on the word as it gets called in English or in the target language. So in the middle, you put your free spot, just like in a regular bingo. Okay, then Kahoot. Okay, Kahoot's been around for years and years, but they have more options on it. If you haven't been on Kahoot in a while, it's quite surprising what the different options are. So I decided actually to get a premium account on Kahoot. It's not super expensive, but it's definitely worth checking out. They have all the different options for questions. You can actually teach with Kahoot with these teach with the slide with this teach with slides option. So you can introduce your new topic and you can have little formative questions in the middle of it and just teach your lesson with a Kahoot. That's kind of cool. So here are the different types of questions that they have now. So it's not just multiple choice like it used to be. So you have your true or false, type the answer, puzzle, quiz and audio, a poll, word cloud, open-ended, brainstorm, or slide. So I love the new Kahoot. The best part for foreign language is that you can actually add text to be read aloud. So that is super cool. And they have all sorts of different languages you can do this with. So I'm definitely going to use this coming school year. That's the new Kahoot. All right. And lastly, I have a Quick Draw. So Quick Draw is actually from the Google company. You can change the language to like all kinds of different languages, and it will start talking to you. It'll talk to the students, that is, as they draw a series of 6 pictures. So these are actually the ones that I made. It says, "Vous êtes un artiste." So I'm an artist, apparently, with these. So it's very cool. It's completely in the language, and kids love it. All right, that is my presentation. I thank you so much for listening. And I hope that you can use some of my ideas. And please do email me if you choose to do some of the games and tell me how it's working out for you. And also, if you'd like to learn tech with Ruth, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. So it was a pleasure talking to you, and I will sign off. Adios.